Thank you. All right, good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, August 23rd. It is game week here, and that is really the message we're going to assist you with here today is how do we make sure that you get your contest started on the right note. As we said last time, school has really begun for you, and that's a compliment for you and your coaches, all the work that you do, and the education has begun for our student athletes. We know tennis matches have already started. We know that teachers are back in many of your buildings. You're meeting with parents and coaches, so on and so forth. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and that will be our message for today. Today's agenda, if we can move to that, please, Laura. We're going to discuss our meeting yesterday with liaisons. It was great to get them back together, and also share with you, Charlie will share information on new ADs and the number of new ADs, or at least at different schools. How do we manage our contests, right? How do we make sure that we have successful competitions going on? Charlie and Eric will update you on Together We Make a Difference. I'll talk to you a little bit about the transfer eligibility guide, some popular questions that we're getting. We'll update on area meetings, quick takes, and then we'll go ahead and finish with our checklist. Again, this is a lengthy agenda here today. It will be a lengthy meeting. We will move rather quickly. Welcome to those that are watching the recording, but remember that the recording will be there if there's something that you missed here today. Just a reminder who our liaisons are. We have 26 in total. They're there for you. They're there to assist us to making sure that we have relevant information for our lead meetings, and making sure we have their barometer, that if there are topics and or questions that you have, that we're able to connect to you no matter where you're located in the state. It's a community that's built. We actually have 8 new liaisons here this year. We welcome them, and it's an opportunity getting to collaborate. How do we best communicate with you? It's one more opportunity to do so. We want to make sure the information that we're sharing is not just information we want to share, but it's relevant to you and the job that you do. Our liaison should represent our entire state. If they don't, we'll continue to work on doing so, and they're there to support you. We encourage them to do so, depending on how they meet with you or communicate with you. We would love for every AD across the state to have a liaison that they can work with and or feel comfortable in asking questions. Again, this is about our member schools, and we want to make sure that we're serving you to the best of our ability. Charlie, I'm going to turn it over to you. Let's talk about what our new ADs look like in terms of numbers this year.
Great. Thanks, Bob. Good morning, everybody, and welcome here at this busy time, and I hope that you'll find some great value in the 30 minutes we're going to spend together this morning. As Bob mentioned, and as reflected by the liaisons group, transition is happening in every one of our schools, often many levels and positions all at once. We've heard from a number of you, even just with coaching vacancies. Again, as you can see in this slide, our ADs are no exception. We have almost 70 first-year ADs again this year, nearly 50 or 50 attending the new AD workshop in St. Cloud in early August, just a couple of weeks ago. And those figures match totals from last year, meaning that 1/3 of our ADs are in their first or second year of service. Your success is paramount to us. The better you can start your fall seasons, your school year, the better our finish will be come tournament time. I'm kind of looking at you, veteran ADs that are on the call. Your willingness to help mentor, guide those new or newer to the profession of activities director can greatly assist our collective success. And I just want to take a moment to mention here in this setting that our staff, and I can speak for all of us, is thankful for such a strong partnership with our ADs, and we look forward to serving you and our member schools over the course of this year. We can go to the next slide. We want to spend a little bit of time this morning talking about contest management and just several pieces that are within that. And just want to start with all events needing supervision, period. Part of your responsibility is to determine what that means for each contest. I think about my time as an AD at Brainerd High School, and I'm certain that I did not have adequate supervision for lower levels that competed off-site, for example. Just one example where, as I think more carefully about our responsibility there, I would do that. I would do that differently. Things that you want to think about: can one person adequately supervise indoor and outdoor at the same time? Can and should a coach both coach and supervise? Will our opponents have supervision for the contest that perhaps we're hosting? Do we need security services? Do we have an event that's going to be large enough that is going to need outside help and maybe more professionalized help? Think about your SRO and how you might, if you have that person in your staff, how you might leverage them. And then when do we intervene to stop negative behaviors, and how do we do that? These are all questions that as ADs, I know that you've contemplated and need to contemplate and work with your school administration to make sure that you have adequate supervision. With that, I'll turn that over to Phil to talk about these next couple of bullet points.
Yeah, and adding to that, we talk about what's normalized in the first handful of weeks here, or the first handful of events that you guys are hosting, is what will carry on through the rest of the school year. So setting that expectation, whether that's with students, whether that's with your site managers and other support staff that are helping out with that, but setting the expectation of what's expected of the student athletes, your fans, and everyone else working is going to be a big point to set the tone for the year. So you can set that out of the gate and be in a good spot. With that said, then also talking about bylaw 409, just reviewing that a little bit, and what that talks about on page 71 of your handbook is the responsibility of participating teams for supervision. So I'd highly recommend reviewing that. As we're getting contests started home and away, it is the responsibility of participating teams, not just home team there. Go ahead, Laura.
Phil, if I may here, we're going to transition here to Lisa, I believe, for a number of slides. A couple things just to know. Charlie and Phil did a nice job making sure that why this slide is here. We're getting started this week, but let's not forget where we have been in years past, right? So we know that you have been planning in preparation for our games and or events, but so have your students. Some of you have an idea what they might bring to the game on Thursday night. Some of you will get to see it at that first contest. We always know that cleanup and or discipline can be very difficult, right? Let's be proactive on the front end as to what the expectations are. I want to reiterate what Charlie said. At a lower level, might it be a coach that's in charge or supervising, right? Might it be a coach out at tennis that is in supervisory mode? But what are you doing when you have volleyball on a given night with football at the same time? What do those events look like? If anything should happen from a game standpoint. With that, Lisa, let's talk a little bit more about contest management, please.
Perfect. Thanks, Bob, and welcome back, everybody. It's great to see your face or your name on the screen. As I know you guys are all preparing for your first contest, and some of you have already had tennis. It's really important to make sure we have our emergency action plans in place. There are a few places that you can access to work with your coaches to ensure that these are in place, not only for your events, but for your practices. And it's really important as we work with new coaches and new lower level coaches that our sites and venues have emergency action plans in place. And you can find those on your Minnesota State High School League Program Management tab. Under emergency action plans, that should give you a list of all of those that are on file. Laura, if you can slide to the next slide. It is a fillable document, and it is really important to encourage your coaches to identify people in charge of these things, and as well as practice one of these if you possibly can. And just a little circle around number 4 in the green, the heat stroke item. Really make sure you have a great plan for this, as we know our late fall and late summer and early fall days get quite warm, as we have soccer and football and cross country, tennis outside. Make sure you're practicing your heat stroke team, and make sure you're identifying places that you can find relief for those kids or participants who might be suffering from heat stroke on a hot day. So emergency action plans are really an important piece of your contest management. It's also really important that your site supervisors are aware of those plans and the steps that they will take to go through those if there's an issue. And on to our next slide with contest management and weather conditions. As I know you're all keenly aware, we love to get our contests in on time and on the right date. But those host schools need to make sure they're watching the weather, determining conditions, and making sure that it's going to be a safe environment for kids to participate. A few rules of thumb: thunder, hear it and clear it. If you see lightning, you should make sure you're taking shelter and having students and spectators also take shelter in appropriate places. 30 minutes from the time you see thunder or hear thunder or see lightning is appropriate. One of those tricks that I like to do as a former AD was put it up on my scoreboard, and that way all the participants were aware of the 30 minutes, and then restart it each time we had to. A reminder that mobile apps are out there and they can assist with that decision making. But it's really important that we don't depend on the total reliability of those apps, and that your visual and audio that you see and hear around you is really an important cue for you as well. Those apps are great for planning and for confirming, but really your own visuals are really important as well. Also, just a great reminder that those weather condition policies apply to practice and contests. And so making sure that those first and second year coaches are aware of those resources, where they can find them, and just communicating on those days that get a little hectic with the weather. And that would also go with site supervisors. As Charlie mentioned before, we have some events that we don't necessarily have a contact person, and who's going to be in charge of making those weather calls is something that's really important to talk about ahead of time, making sure that everyone is comfortable making those calls and has your support when they do that. Another piece of the document is the wet bulb globe test range recommendations, and that's when it gets real humid and hot. We've been kind of fortunate for the first week here. We haven't had those days yet, but as we get through those, we may see some. So please make sure you're reviewing that too. I think that is my report. Bob, anything I missed there?
No, great job. Health and safety is always our priority with our student athletes, and in practice and in competition. Phil, let's talk about our officials and their eligibility, as well as, again, we're kicking off our contest this week. Phil?
Awesome. So moving into eligible officials here, and this is really something that you're going to want to think about how to best make this work in your office, right? When we're talking about confirming that all of our officials have met their requirements. So all of you as ADs and your assistant AD should have access to viewing that on Arbiter. But in many cases, you might have officials that don't go through Arbiter, or you might have an assigner that's in a different spot. So how is that going to look in your office? And the recommendation would be to check throughout the week check through email when those officials check in, but then also checking on site as well, just in case there's any changes that happen during the week. Well, you've had an official check in with you on Tuesday for a Thursday game, but there's been a switch of officials. And so you want to be able to cover your bases and check on both of those in the best case scenario. So also reviewing of bylaw 413, which is on page 75 of your handbook, on the number of required officials for a contest to happen, right? In there on page 75, you'll see, and going into 76, I think, and 77, you'll see a chart of all the different individual sports and what is going to be required for a minimum number of officials for that contest. And then lastly, knowing your end of game procedures, right? And these are all found either in the Minnesota modifications or the rules and policies on your dashboard, and rules and policies is also underneath the handbook tab on the MSHSL site. So knowing those for all of your fall sports, especially right now, and the fall is actually really simple. It gets a little more complex as we go into the spring, but the fall is nice with really clear-cut lines around the ending of competition. So most of them are right at halftime. So with that, going back to Bob and Charlie, is there anything on there that we missed?
Oh, I think it's really good. And I think, Phil, at this time, we're going to turn it over to Lisa to talk about ejections.
Perfect. Thanks, Bob. So we will, we did have some new features on our ejection reports this year. As ADs, you won't notice that, but officials definitely will notice some differences. Biggest things on ejection reports is really, and we highlighted this in our coaches online rules, is coaches really need to make sure that kids are following the ejection if they are ejected. Really encourage your coaches to contact you if they have a student or a coach ejected from an event, especially if it's that evening and they play the next day. It's really important that we're following through on making sure kids sit that penalty in the time that they're supposed to sit it, as well as coaches. Also really important that you respond to those ejection reports when you receive them. And if you have questions on them, you can call our office and we can walk you through that if you've not done that. You will get notified of an ejection, but it might not be as quickly as the next day. And then contest reports, you will also get notified from the Minnesota State High School League staff. We broke up contest and ejection reports this year. Contest reports being something great that happened to your school that officials wanted to let us know about, or if there's some sort of equipment issue or field issue that the officials wanted to let us know about, that will be in a contest report, and we will work with schools as we get those. So those are the big highlights on ejection and contest reports.
And Lisa, maybe if we could just spend another moment here. Ejections are not appealable, all right, according to policy. Just a reminder on that. If ADs do have questions, you are welcome to talk to the official and or the assigner. Sometimes it's not clear if there was an actual ejection. Always check the book or with whoever was your official scorer on site. We ask that that coaches are not working with officials or clarifying with officials following the contest. That should come from an administrator as to whether or not there was an ejection. Whether or not you get that report if there was an ejection, just a reminder that that student and or coach is out for the next contest. The contest is a minimum. If it is an egregious ejection, right, if there is physical contact, you can expect that you will hear from us that it will be greater than a contest, either for the individual or the student athlete and or the coach. It's always easier when you make that decision on your own as opposed to us having to make that decision for you. Lisa, again, thank you. And now we're going to go to Eric and Charlie to talk about Together We Make a Difference.
Thanks, Bob. Good morning, everybody, and welcome again to LEAD and the start of the 22-23 school year. It's great to have everybody on, and certainly hope that those that aren't able to be here with us this morning are taking their time to watch this as it comes forward. Go back through those contest management pieces again at your speed that works for you, and kind of check those things off. Really, really critical. Together We Make a Difference is a large partnership. This is pretty unique, quite honestly, to have the number of organizations committed to the actions that are part of Together We Make a Difference. And that byline right there at the top really says it all. We're in partnership, have a goal to provide the opportunity for all students to attend school, learn, and participate in safe and respectful environments, free from any type of harm or discrimination. And we need your help. We need your work. We recognize that within our schools, leadership teams across the state are taking action and planning to address these things within their school. That's critical. Our activities are always the front door to our schools. This is where our communities and our parents all engage in the work that we do and the activities of our students. And it's our goal to have those be as safe as they can possibly be for all of our students. And so your work is important. There are a number of aspects to it. One is working as a leadership team at your local school. Another one, a big one, and Charlie and Lisa have been in partnership with Forbes Solutions and Youth Lens 360 to establish student leader training, and now moving toward regional meetings for our students. This gives them an opportunity to have voice in what they like to see and how they would like this to be addressed. Keep in mind that our conferences across the state are also having conversations around expectations that they have. These are all parts of things here. We heard really directly from our school board association, from our superintendent's association, principal association, MNI AAA, and coaches association, that this is critical and important work. And so we look for you to be a major player in this, to be a great partner, reach out when you need assistance, and to engage your students and your leadership teams toward this goal. Charlie, I'm going to turn it to you for work that's been done here, and also to assist our ADs in their work toward getting students involved.
Great, thanks, Eric. Yeah, yesterday you received an update. It was really a carbon copy to let you know that a message was sent to superintendents, giving an update of where we're at with this process. And as Eric mentioned, we just finished 3 what we would call student champion trainings, and this was the facilitation of the training of student leaders who will facilitate table conversations at one of several region meetings. Currently, that number stands at 6, and there could be a 7th that we add to the list. And just want to give a special thanks to those schools and sites and ADs that have worked with their administrative teams to be host sites for those regional meetings. And on Wednesday, superintendents and heads of school connected to your schools and buildings will receive information on how to register up to 10 students from each school for these regional events. And again, that communication is going to come out tomorrow, Wednesday. So expect that your superintendent is going to, or head of school is going to reach out to you and look to you to get students engaged and connected with one of our September regional meetings. And then we're going to harvest that information, and any student that attends regional meetings will be invited to a statewide conference that is going to happen late fall, think November here, and we'll communicate details as that comes together. And just appreciate everybody considering how they can get their school involved with these regional meetings.
All right, Charlie and Lisa, thank you so much for your work on that and your preparation for those regional meetings. We look forward to seeing our schools participate. We're going to move into a popular question, a frequently asked question here over the last couple of weeks. Just a reminder on certified online providers. This was a popular question even prior to COVID, coming out of COVID, and as education continues to change. Remember that this resource is here. It's called the Transfer Eligibility Guide. Our most popular questions have been in the area of certified online providers held by an online ISD, and then also a charter school. Remember that we have the list of certified online providers. That is a direct link. That is not our list. That is the Department of Education's. 2 things you need to look for. Number 1, what type of certified online provider is it? If it is an online ISD, right, their eligibility is with the resident district. All right. If it is an out-of-state certified online provider from their state, that would not qualify according to policies of the Minnesota State High School League. If it is a charter, their eligibility lies with the charter school. So make sure that you indicate what type of certified online provider it is. Is it in our state? Is it offered by an online ISD? Or is it a charter school? This will assist you again in determining eligibility as you enter transfers into the transfer portal. And again, ask questions if you have them, but it always helps us if you're making that determination and know the policies as you work with your parents. If I haven't missed anything there, I think, Laura, I'm going to turn it over to you for the next few slides here. Laura?
Good. And just the slide that's up right now, a note of where you can find this under the program management area on the page filled with eligibility resources. As Bob said, this is called the Transfer Eligibility Guide. And it's really a one-pager that lives in that location. We've referenced area meetings a couple of times during today's lead. Reminder that there are 9 regional meetings that will be held during September, where a number of league staff will be out in communities and meeting and working with you in those meetings. Registration is open for that. You can find it under the area meetings fall 2022 in the resources area. Topics that we have on our agenda so far that we've heard from people that they want to hear more about: some name, image, likeness, NIL pieces, a revamped activity advisory form to submit those, more information on Together We Make a Difference, information on catastrophic medical and concussion insurance that the league provides, and some information and feedback to be gathered around 9th grade participation. Please also be looking for a survey to come out in the next week or so, asking about other topics that you feel would be valuable for area meeting topics. And our last 2 consistent slides that you see at each of our lead meetings. The first one is just some quick takes. Available later today will be the first media folks who have registered for the annual approved media list. This is a list that's compiled out of our office from media who apply to be MSHSL approved. That list is available for ADs and then people running section tournaments to use as a guide. They have been vetted through our office and placed on that list. Final determination on media is always still a single school's responsibility and choice, but we will provide that list for you as a guide. Translated documents. There are 3 translated documents around eligibility that are now available in Spanish, Hmong, and Somali. Those are on the eligibility resources page. Please use those with your communities as you're registering folks and working with people in those populations. We've received good feedback on the videos around eligibility. Next up on the slate in that area is to provide a video around an investigative checklist. Look for that coming in September. And please, again, continue to give us feedback on those and other topics that you'd like some of those short how-to type tutorials. COVID guidance was updated last week. That can be found on your dashboard in the school administrator resources area. That was updated to match the most recent CDC information, and then it also vetted through sports medicine. What really changed in that was days 6 through 10 and what's allowed and not allowed during that time. So please make sure you review that as we get into competitions. We continue to see a number of the 502 errors on the website. The good news and bad news. The good news is that means people are using our website. The bad news is that means we continue to fight some of those traffic issues. We have a number of things in process right now that aim to eliminate those. And then finally, we added a feature last week. We heard a lot from ADs that they needed to and wanted to be able to see the annual rules meetings that coaches have an opportunity to see. So on your dashboard, you'll find a button under education that says view annual rules meetings. And in that spot, you can click from one rules meeting to another. Please note that you will not, or anyone that accesses them that way will not receive credit for them. So if you are a coach or are sharing that with your coaches, no credit is given for viewing those in that spot. We are working through a couple of things on the football one right now. That one is too long to be viewed, and we're working to get that up and available. But know that that page will grow as we go through the school year. And then finally, to-do list, as Charlie shared earlier, tomorrow afternoon, your superintendent or head of school will get that information about registering for Together We Make a Difference. Please work with him or her and other leaders at your school to get students registered. Tournament pass cards are now available to be ordered. Those are the cards that will get you into postseason play. On the area of your dashboard called MSHSL resources, there's a link there to go in and order those. We will place 3 orders throughout the school year. The first order is slated to go in September 15th. We ask that you fill out the form there, as well as pay and upload a picture for use in that. That's also where you'll find the area meeting registration underneath the resources, and that's on the checklist also. And then a couple of things that we've talked about earlier, emergency action plans. Please put that on your to-do list and work with your coaches to make sure that those are completed. You have access to them, as well as anyone who would need to be working with those emergency action plans. A double check that all of your head coaches are head coach certified as per state statute, and make sure that you have designated them as such on the website. And then on the website help guide button, there is a checklist for you for back to school each fall. It has live links to a number of how-to documents. It's important that you go through that and make sure that information is updated. For example, your principal and superintendent, who we reach out to communicate on a regular basis, we pull that list out of that information. So if your superintendent and principal are not accurate on that, we're not communicating effectively with them, and they're not getting information from us. It also talks through getting coaches in, making sure that other pieces are updated for your school. So please work through that list to get things updated. With that, I see we are at 11:16, 1 minute over. I'm going to throw it back to Bob to wrap up, and we'll be done for the day.
We said 30 minutes. We're going to keep it as close to that as possible. Have a great week. Make sure we're keeping those student athletes safe and sound in your programs. Make sure you register for an area meeting, and we'll see you at a meeting near you. Thank you.